Honorable Advocate Bronco, morning to other honorable members of the committee, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Indeed, Chairperson, I'm taking you through the letter. I was under the impression that the letter is going to be read from your side, so I'm trying to look for a copy here on my documents because I had prepared documents for today's meeting, but I seem to have misplaced them, but I still remember very well what's written in the letter. You will remember, Chairperson, that on the 25th of August, the committee held a meeting and gave instruction that the forensic audit that is being undertaken in the UOH Mutombo Pty Limited for the automated biometric identification system, that is ABIS, that investigation must come to an end at the end of the month. The very following day, the acting DDG, Mr. McKay, on the 26th of August, wrote a letter to the company, Nexia, SABNT, and informed them exactly what the portfolio committee has instructed. Nexia SABNT responded also exactly on the same day, on the 26th of August. They responded that according to their program, they've got 100 people who they need to interview. And as such, there's no way that they'll be able to submit the report at the time that was being requested. And they were asking for an extension. Now, that extension was up to the end of this month. I think it was up to today, yes, on the 27th. That is the day on which we're expecting the report as the committee. But they were saying it won't be happening. On the 13th of October, when I realized that we are left with 2 weeks, that's when I wrote the present letter to the portfolio committee. Excuse me. That's when the acting DG again wrote a letter to the company to remind them that you are now left with 2 weeks before the end of October to submit your report. And then they responded immediately. And it is the response going to be read, which I've submitted to the committee. Simply, what you call, to summarize, because the response is quite lengthy, it's a lot of many pages. It's about a 16-page document. I won't be able to go through it. I've summarized it in the letter, but the summary is that they said when they were halfway investigating the 100 people that they have flagged, lots and lots of names started coming up again and again and again. And they finally came up with a list of people who need to be interviewed. They still need to interview 42 people from CETA, 28 people from the Department of Home Affairs, 18 people from the CSIR, the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research, 3 people from South African Police Services, 15 people from the bidders, from the companies that entered the bid, and many of them, of course, did not make it. 37 people from the CETA's evaluation committee, bid evaluation committee, 17 people from also a bid, another committee from CETA, 11 people from the Department of Home Affairs bid evaluation committee, 1 person from an international company called Gardner, which gave technical advice during the bidding process, 1 from AXA, the Auditor General of South Africa, 49 from the Department of Home Affairs Project Steering Committee. I left the companies like CETA Audit, a company called Security, Core Focus, Big, from which they were going to interview two each. But the total, Chairperson, of the people they need to interview is 233, falling in the categories that I've mentioned. The company has put together the following team to do the work. They've put 1 engagement director, 1 forensic manager, 2 junior forensic consultants, 1 forensic investigator, 4 technical IT experts, 1 digital imaging expert, 4 senior forensic investigators, and a legal advisor. It's a total of 15 people. They have put them to do this work of going on to investigate and interview to 233 people. And as such, the company said, according to their calculation, they will need 600 hours to complete this work. And according to my calculation, Chairperson, 600 hours will take us up to the end of November this year. The company further concluded by saying, if we insist that they must hand in the report now, it will constitute a very serious risk to the state, but also constitute a very serious reputational damage to the company, because they believe, according to them, there are likely to be civil cases, there are likely to be criminal cases, there are likely to be DC, where people will need to protect themselves. And so when they come up with the documents about who did what and start putting affidavits, etc., they want those to be watertight so that nobody gets embarrassed at the end of the day, because they say in their report they are going to be mentioning names of people and they don't want to mention them in name. That's why they believe they must do that work in the next 600 hours. That's where we are, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Members, take note that the technology we're using here, it may kick any one of us out. When we're kicked out, please rejoin, because it will not be by the intention of the host. The host will accept you in again immediately. Thank you, Minister, for that. Can I get members to talk onto this matter quickly?
Chairperson.
Yes, Co-Chair.
Chairperson, I think we thank the Minister for the letter that he tabled. My only concern, I've got 2 concerns though. Well, firstly, we can't really not agree with the letter, because of course it's a very important task that needs to be completed. But now if the work's only completed towards the end of November, beginning of December, which means that this committee will only be able to engage with this report or the work that's been done possibly in February. So could we ask then just that the Minister keeps us abreast of developments and any information that comes towards the committee, that you forward to us, Chairperson, so that we can be kept abreast of the developments around the investigation. But secondly, now that I hear that there's 200 people that will have to be interviewed, there's a team of 15 people, which includes specialist investigators. I'm a bit worried about the cost, Minister. What is the costs? How much have we paid this company so far? And the additional work, will this, translate to us spending many more millions to get to the bottom of what we need to get to? So just I want to know, in terms of how much have we paid them so far, and does the additional work then mean much more money to be paid over to the forensic investigators? If you can just give me an indication. But otherwise, Chairperson, I think we will have to agree to the extension. There's no other way. We can't let the investigation be compromised. So we will have to accept the letter. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Can I take other members? But you must know, Honorable Lizelle, we were put in this situation by CETA. Home Affairs would have not been in this situation had it not been CETA, and that must be borne in mind, that whatever money, actually it must be, we must be able to say that CETA must be the one who pays this kind of money, not the department. The department has done nothing wrong in this case.
No, I agree, Chairperson, but also we need to see Home Affairs and CETA, the divorce must take place sooner than later, because I think we've been speaking about this since March of last year, that we do not want CETA and this department to do business anymore. So surely that should also be something that must be expedited. But we do need to get an indication of the costs and whether it will escalate with the additional work that needs to be done. Because at the end of the day, it's taxpayer money that's being spent. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Co-Chair. Honorable Honorable Ross, then Honorable Chabani.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'd want to agree with my colleague in terms of the the cost question and the fact that this investigation definitely needs to go on. I think it also brings up the the issue of contract management at Home Affairs, and we seem to find that we often get into these situations where something goes wrong with the service provider, and we don't necessarily seem to be able to recover these costs. So whether it's an investigation cost or a cost of having to run two systems for one purpose. So I think it's something that the Department of Home Affairs really needs to look at, is their contract management and ensuring that in these various situations that we end up being able to levy penalties on these companies. If they don't deliver, there's costs to the department, and those costs need to be borne. My other question is really, is it not possible, will the report be delivered on the 30th of November? Or is there not a possibility that it would be finished before the end of November and be able to serve before the end of the year?
Okay. Honorable Chaban.
No, thanks, Chair. I agree in principle on the request by the Minister on the letter, Chair. And I think, as the co-chair has indicated, that we are here because of the irregularities that happened at SITA. And we have now clear in our collective mind that it has contributed negatively to the service work of Home Affairs. And now Home Affairs is going to incur costs that they could not have incurred if all processes.
Just hold on, Honorable Chaban. There is a member here, Luvuyo Keisa, is busy in another meeting, but he's just in our meeting here. Can he concentrate in one meeting? Who's Luvuyo Keisa? He's busy talking.
He's the
And
caretaker.
if he's part of our meeting, he must be part of our meeting. Proceed, Honorable Chaban.
Yeah, thanks. I was saying, Chairperson, let me just conclude. One is that, Chair, the Home Affairs came to us and request extension that we have resolved to the end of October for a report. And given the issues that are raised on the letter, which we have gone through, is that it will be impossible, as the co-chair raises, that the report will come end of November. I'm protected or not.
Can Luvuyo Keisa stop another meeting? Mr. Luvuyo Keisa, you are disrupting the meeting of Home Affairs.
But Chair, can you remove him from the meeting?
Can you remove this Luvuyo, remove Luvuyo in this meeting?
Chairperson is the caretaker at SITA. So
Chairperson,
unfortunately, he's the SITA person. He's the SITA head who's going to present to the portfolio committee. If he gets, I'm just informing the committee. If he gets removed, item number 1 was supposed to be presented by him.
But how can he be disruptive in our meeting?
Let me apologize, Chairperson. We were testing the mic. We didn't see is the other mic that's brought in the bottom, also in the bottom. We didn't see that it's not muted. We really apologize for that.
Proceed, Honorable Chaban. Good morning, Honorable Ndabe.
Yeah, thanks, Chairperson. I noted that you are not protecting your speakers because we're disrupted, and I think that's wrong. We must just raise it, Chair. I was saying, Chairperson, that I agree with the co-chair on the proposed issues that she raised, that were here because of problems that emanated from irregularities that were engaged by SITA and that were highlighted by the Auditor General. And secondly is that the department is going to incur costs as a result of that exercise. We must, Chair, agree to extend the request by the Minister or the department in terms of the days that, but I don't think, Chair, there will be, given the issues raised, the people they need to be interviewing, that the end of November will be sufficient for us as members of the committee to be really convinced that good work has been done. I'll propose, Chairperson, that we extend until the first sitting of the committee next year in February. We receive a report because a thorough process could have been engaged so that we are able to deal with this matter. If we extend to November, December obviously it's going to be a passive month, and they'll come back to us and request an extension. So let's grant, Chairperson, an extension until February for them to come back and report to the committee. That is my submission, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we can close on this matter.
Chair.
Yes, proceed.
Yeah, my apologies. I've raised my hand in the participant box.
No, you're not.
I did. I think it was taken down by someone, by the officials also.
Okay, proceed.
Yeah, Chair, I think the request by the minister is genuine, and I would argue that it's a fair request. I will align myself with Honorable Shabani Musa also in terms of the time frame. But I have two major concerns here. One is why a cost analysis has not been done. I think we need a cost analysis on this whole issue. And then secondly, in our previous meeting, we have requested details of the reported suspension of the 183 people at SETA. So I don't know how it will affect. And also, if you look at the numbers that the minister has given of those being suspended, it does not match the amount of people that needs to be interviewed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Gruber. I think we're going to take a presentation general from Minister of Communications and the Minister of Home Affairs on the substantive issues that relates to the matter. We're now just dealing with this matter. I think those matters will still arise. Suffice to say that for now, what we may have to just agree that the committee accepts the letter and the request because we only have November and December. There's no use of the committee hurrying a report because we can hurry it and it comes with reports. That's around that 600 hours that they're looking for. It's up until November, but December is almost a dead month. And I tend to agree with Honorable Chavani that maybe the first item in the next year's committee meeting must be to deal with this matter and the presentation of this report by the minister. I think that would be fair and it would not have any other excuse that will come because we would have granted sufficient time to deal with and dispose of this matter. Can we go to the next item, the presentation by briefing from the Minister of Communication, Honorable Stella Ndabeni. Good morning, Minister, and how are you?
Morning, Chairperson and other honorable members. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
And over to you.
Thank you so much. Chairperson, let me thank the Portfolio Committee for affording us an opportunity to come and state on the issues that have been raised, state the facts on. Am I still audible?
That is correct.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. On the matters that have been raised of concern for some time between the service delivery and irregularities that have been experienced from the Department of Home Affairs and SETA. Chairperson, I did take note and the concern from your opening remarks in terms of the fact that you state that you are in this crisis because of SETA. Not speaking for SETA, Chairperson, but I would like to request the EC of SETA to take us through in terms of the facts and how the irregularities arise and what has transpired out of them. If I were just to make an example, Chairperson, for example, on the irregularities that are raised, only 2 people from SETA. The rest out of the 40 is not from SETA, it's from Home Affairs, but we have that detailed report as from the AG and everybody else. because the processes they are questioning are not processes only that are dependent on SETA, but they had the entire composite structures that are involved, which is why at SETA, the first thing that we agreed on is that let's take action when necessary against those that we are in control of, which is the employees, whether they are former or current of SETA. Unfortunately, it has to stand there. We have prepared a detailed presentation, Chairperson, in light of also how the procurement processes are undertaken within the law. What is it that we can do, what we cannot do, and who does what, and therefore why are we finding ourselves here, and what have we done? As we have said, we've been seized with this matter for a long time, and no consequences has been taken. With your permission, Honorable Chair, I would like Mr. Geise to take us in detail in the contract as known from Home Affairs, maybe not to the Portfolio Committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
Through you, all right. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Ndabeni, I think you must start by apologizing for disrupting my meeting.
My apologies.
I say you must apologize for disrupting my meeting.
Oh, apologize first.
All right, thank you, Honorable Chair. I think first let me apologize for disrupting the meeting. And indeed, it was not to undermine you, Chair, and the honorable members. We were just trying to connect a number of devices in the boardroom that we are in. And for that, I humbly apologize to you as the leader of the meeting, but also to all members of the meeting. And I sincerely do offer my apology. With that, Chair, am I able to continue with the presentation, Chair? I will ask my team, as agreed with the Secretariat, to post the slides with your permission, Chair, if you so do agree, similar as we've done in the last meeting.
Agreed. Agreed. Proceed.
And Honorable Chair, may I then continue with your permission?
Yes, proceed. Yes,
all right,
proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I will then take the committee through the presentation, and the focus, Honorable Chair, is not repeating the things that were said in the last meeting, but perhaps to provide an update on what have we now done as SETA since the promises that we have made in the last meeting. We will talk more on what consequence management we have effected even since the last meeting, and also consequence management as SETA. We intend to also ensure that we implement as soon as the final report is received. Tanya, if I can ask you, you are now at the end of the presentation. If you can go back, please, on to slide 3 at least. All right, thank you. We'll stop on that slide. Just to remind the committee, so this is the tender process that the committee is aware of, the accreditation process that happened in 2016, and also the final award that was then done in July 2017. And within that, the only companies that then qualified in that process were then the 4 companies mentioned from NEC Africa, Accenture, Ernst & Young, and EOH Mtombo. I guess whilst we are there, Chair, it is more important to explain that the SETA Act is very clear on its regulations that any tender process evaluation that is being done by SETA on behalf of any department, majority of the members that should be sitting in that evaluation process must come from that department. That's what the minister was explaining, where the minister was saying for both the accreditation process and the RFP process, the majority of the people that were sitting in the evaluation process were appointed by Home Affairs, in line with what the SETA Act stipulates for all agency transactions. And therefore, SETA continues to be committed to make decisions and consequence management on all of these people that sit in all of these tender processes. That's the CETA Act. Those are the regulations that are governing CETA, although we manage the tender process, but more importantly, because the money is not ours, it is for the department on whose behalf we are running the tender process. Majority of the people must come from them. And even in this regard, all the people that Honorable Minister Motsoaledi was raising from CSIR, from police, from all of these people were appointed by Home Affairs. But CETA takes responsibility for the procurement process, takes responsibility for the education process, and also for its own 2 people that were in the evaluation process. So that's the first slide that explains the process. If we go to the next slide, Tanya, and then from the next slide, we then explain that then CETA made a recommendation to the department for the awarding of the contract in July 2017, because CETA does not award. CETA makes recommendations to the department, and as CETA makes recommendations to the department, CETA also provides audit reports to the department so that the department is able to make a conscious decision on the award. They are the ones that pay, so they are the ones that must make the award, not CETA. And as they do that, they do that then with the audit reports. Because we audit any tender process above a 10 million rands with an external audit. This one was no different. We also did provide the external audit report to the Department of Home Affairs. The former DG did receive, and we have the information, including the recording, that the former DG did receive even the external audit report that we presented. But be it as it may, there were then these findings from AG around the missing files. More importantly, the second phase, your RFP phase, that there was a missing file. And because of that, for AG, it was a scope limitation. Because they could not be provided with that file, they then raised the issue, which is then where we were from the last meeting. And if we go to the next slide, then from the last meeting, although we've reconstructed the file, the committee was very clear that I must ensure that I lodge criminal cases against the 2 people that I identified that are accountable and responsible for this, which is the former Chief Procurement Officer of CETA and the former Senior Manager Supply Chain Management for CETA. And I confirm we did lay criminal charges against those 2 people. But the meeting we had was on the 25th of August. The next day, on the 26th, we did lay criminal charges against those 2 people. I can also confirm the same day of the 26th of August, after we have laid the criminal charges, I also did receive a call from ex-CETA employees that also informed us about this matter that went public, that they know where the files are. And the files were provided by CETA and Home Affairs to the state law advisors. CETA also handed over the files to its own attorneys, Khalid Hayes Malachi. And the reason we handed over these files is that one of the losing bidders, NEC Africa, was litigating both the department and CETA for the tender process, the RFP process, not the RFA process, questioning why they were not selected. As I have explained in the previous slide, that NEC Africa was one of the 4 bidders that passed the first stage, your RFA stage. So both us, Home Affairs and CETA, defended this matter, and Home Affairs handed its own master file to the state law advisors, its own copy to the state law advisors. And CETA also handed its own copy, a copy of its own file to its own lawyers, as well as provided a 3rd copy to NEC Africa. This simply means both CETA and Home Affairs knew that we had the master file for the RFP process, but neither CETA nor Home Affairs for this 2-year period seem to have known that we handed over these files to our own attorneys. And I can confirm that CETA, when we then received these files from 26 August, we solely informed Home Affairs. We can move to the next slide, Tanya. We informed Home Affairs of the fact, And we have also handed over these files to SETA lawyers and to AG. We have made these files available. We have also made available these files to the investigators that Home Affairs has appointed, your SABNT. Up to now, we have not received any communication either from the investigators, from the AG, or any other person in terms of any additional missing documents. We have also not received anything that says, SETA, from these files that we have handed over to us, we still miss 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So up to now, we have not received that call. I can also confirm the CFO of Home Affairs at 4:15 yesterday also informed me that we also require the 2016 file for the accreditation process, which we will also follow up on that matter as SETA to ensure that we also find the file for the first process, the accreditation process. But we have also done our analysis overnight as SETA to also go through all the findings that AGSA has raised, to indeed go through to say which finding relates to what document. And we can confirm very clearly so that all irregularities, the matters that deal with irregularities, are issues that have to do with the RFP process. The RFP process is the one where we have handed over now the master file. But we had handed over the master file to the investigators and also informed Home Affairs of the same thing, but we will also follow up. I have contacted the DG for State Security also to see what information we'll find on the accreditation process, because during the accreditation process, we know that also State Security played a role within that. And we will inform the portfolio committee on the progress of that. The only reason I'm explaining this here to you, honorable members, because it is only something I was informed after 4 o'clock yesterday. So from the 26th of August, when we made these files available to Home Affairs, to the investigators appointed by Home Affairs, no one ever informed me that we also require the file for the RFA process until at 4:15 yesterday, when the CFO from Home Affairs informed me of that. And we still commit as SETA, we will do that. But beyond that, we have also started our own additional consequence management process as SETA to say for our own legal team, they should have known that the files were handed over to the SETA lawyers and were taking the necessary consequence management for that. And the second part, as we've committed to the committee, that we will take consequence management for the reconstruction of the file. Reconstruction of the file, so that I can be very brutal about it, it means it's employees that are being paid already by Home Affairs and SETA. They spend hours going through their emails to reconstruct the file. It's not an appointment of an external company. It's people that are going through their own emails and their own computers to see if they can find any information about these files. Even for that, we've said we will ensure that we recover that money, even if it's less than 100,000 rands. SETA is still committed to say we recover that money from all the officials that were involved, including the 2 we've already laid criminal charges against, but also within that, as SETA, we are also including the head of legal services, because that person should have known about the master file. Our plea as SETA is that Home Affairs should have known, and Home Affairs must also take consequence management for its own officials, because it also had a copy of the document. If we move to the next slide. And we can also confirm to the portfolio committee that the SABNT, the investigators for Home Affairs, as the minister has also read the letter around them, up to now, we have not received any information in terms of additional documentation they require from us. And as the minister has explained, the report has not been made available to us yet, but SETA makes its own commitment to say, if there is any wrongdoing for the irregularity that sits at the SETA door, SETA will take the necessary consequence management for that. So if there is anything within the process that talks to an irregularity from SETA, we will take the necessary consequence management, including the financial implication of that consequence management for what SETA did wrong. So that's the commitment that we have made, and it's a commitment that we keep on making even now. So meaning even when this report comes in finally, whether is it in November or December, if it points to any SETA official that has done wrong, we will take the necessary consequence management. To assist also the investigators, SABNT, I can also confirm to the portfolio committee, we have contacted all the people that the SABNT has indicated that they want to interview. We have contacted all SETA people, former and current, and all of them have committed that they will fully participate with the investigation by SABNT. I can also confirm, including Dr. Situmo, who was the CEO during the time, has confirmed that he is willing and available to be interviewed by the investigators. The interview should have happened last week, according to his understanding, but up to now, it has not yet happened. And as SETA, we will work with the investigators, and we can confirm all SETA people that played a role, be it the two that were in the evaluation process, or be it the 7 additional people that sat in the SETA's adjudication process. All of them we have contacted, including the other people that were sitting in the overall supply chain management process, including the 2 I have lodged criminal charges against. They are all available and willing to come before the investigators as and when the investigators call them. If I then move to the next slide. Okay, if I then move to the next slide, I think what the second part that we presented here with the department was about the department wishing to subcontract or cede the contract to the subcontractor of EOH. So the matter that when we came in through the portfolio committee, as you see in some of these slides, you've seen that we have differed in terms of the views with the department. Let me start from the fact that both ministers and officials have met. And as part of the meeting of both ministers and officials from both departments, one of the principal decisions that we have taken is to say, for this matter to be resolved, for the subcontracting of the work that EOH does, be it ceded to the subcontractor, the Department of Home Affairs will have to seek the consensus of National Treasury for that. And the department will also have then to inform AGSA of that and inform SETA. And although SETA will support that process, will support that process if Treasury approves the ceding of the contract. SETA will support that process, but SETA is not the one that must grant Home Affairs the permission for that. What the minister is raising with SETA is that this contract was a 3-year contract with the possibility of being extended to about 5 years. We are now on year 3. And only on year 3, we want to cede the contract to the subcontractor. And SETA has played no role in this contract. The role of SETA only stopped at the awarding of the tender in 2017. So for the 3 years of the EOH being appointed, there is no role that SETA played. SETA is not a signatory to the contract. SETA has not seen the contract, as the law does not allow SETA to play any role within that process. We hand over that to the department. So SETA is then in no position to account for what has happened over the 3-year process. Why has EOH failed to deliver in the 3-year process? I think that's the part that Home Affairs will present when I'm done with this. But what we are then saying as SETA supported by the minister is to say, much as we will support if Treasury approves that the contract gets ceded to the subcontractor, we need to ensure that the department manages the risk of now handing over the contract to the subcontractor, because the tender process focused only on the capability of the prime contractor, those triple PFA rules. So your procurement rules require that you do your full evaluation, risk mitigation, and everything around the credibility, the potential, the capability of the prime contractor. So we are then saying as SETA to Home Affairs, as you seek to hand over this contract 3 years down the line to the subcontractor, please ensure that all the risks are not passed over to the subcontractor, and the subcontractor will then end up not being able to deliver. So ensure that risk mitigation is done and is managed very well. But also, as you do that, we are then saying as SETA, please ensure in that process you are also clearer about any additional variation. Because when you see the contract with these current terms and conditions. So if it was a 10 rands contract, you see it for 10 rands. If it was a 10-day contract, you see it for the remainder of the 10-day period. So as you do that, we are then saying as SETA, because SETA cannot be held accountable for the lack of delivery of the subcontractor. Neither can SETA be held accountable for the current poor performance of EOH, as SETA has played no role in any of that matter. So simply put, we are saying yes, if National Treasury approves the process, we will support it. However, we will caution the department to say, please do ensure that you manage any risks that come with the subcontractor now taking over the contract, especially on things like financial penalties, because one of those things we understand the department will also present is to say what financial penalties for lack of performance have now been put to EOH as they have been contracted as the prime contractor to run with this process. So we are willing as SETA at no cost to assist the department in looking into possible risk mitigation measures. But as SETA will support this process, we are supporting it to ensure risks are minimized. That will then have to go to both the department as the subcontractor as they intend look at seating the contract. I think the rest of the things that we're raising here is what we have raised in the last meeting to say SETA is informed that EOH is now planning on pulling out of most of its contracts with the public sector. And SETA, it is something that it is monitoring for a simple reason of ensuring that they don't now cede these contracts to subcontractors, and subcontractors now carry the risk of finishing the implementation. And we'll continue to advise other departments as we're advising Home Affairs to say, please ensure that you manage the risks, but also as you cede the contract, ensure that you then do not vary the contract further, because that will then lead to additional irregularity. And on the next slide, in my closing, Chair, I think in that closing, Chair, we thank you. That's the high-level presentation that we've made. And with the Minister, we will then answer any questions, Chair, that you have. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Yeah, thank you. You know, can you mute, Mr. Luvio, can you mute? Okay. You know, I'm now tempted to, I don't know, members, with your leave, because you hear the presentation. And SETA says they have nothing to do with all the irregularities that was put into the contract. With all that SETA was involved in now, they also say that they are prepared also to assist in mitigating risk of a situation that they've put Home Affairs to. But maybe I must take the briefing from the Minister, then the members be ready to engage with this report. Honorable Minister, can you just take us through?
Chairperson, thank you very much. Let me also recognize my colleague, the Minister of Telecommunications and Digital Technologies, Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrams, chairperson and her team and the team from CETA, the executive caretaker of CETA, Mr. Livuyo Keisa, who has just presented. Chairperson, can I ask that the presentation be put on the screen, please? Can the host put the presentation for us on the screen? Thank you very much. There is the presentation, Chairperson. As a form of a background, just to refresh a member's mind, the Department of Home Affairs, which will be referred to as DAH from now henceforth, in its modernization program, wished to upgrade its biometric system called HANIS, or Home Affairs National Identification System, to ABIS, or Automated Biometric Identification System. The difference, Chairperson, between HANIS and ABIS is that HANIS can handle only 2 biometrics, meaning when we take South Africans' biometrics when they come to take IDs, we are only taking 2. That is fingerprints and photos, because that is what HANIS can handle. Now, ABIS, on the other hand, we want to move to it because it can handle the following biometrics. It can handle fingerprints, photos, iris recognition, palm print, and facial recognition. And it's believed that in future, when everything else has been put in ABIS, it may also extend what it can handle to DNA or even to footprint for newborn babies. You are aware that we do not have fingerprints for newborn babies when they take birth certificate, because their fingerprints are regarded as not being matured enough. But we are looking at the possibility of putting a footprint for the baby, and that can also be handled by ABIS. So ABIS has got a lot of advantages over HANIS, and that's why I want to move in that direction in this modern era. But in line with government policy, the Department of Home Affairs requested CETA, the State Information Technology Agency, to procure the services, the service provider, to provide the service provider for ABIS. And CETA procured for this purpose a company called EOH Mutombo Pty Limited for an amount of 409,885,716 rand. During the annual audit of CETA, the Auditor General of South Africa flagged the contract which CETA acquired for Department of Home Affairs as potentially irregular because of suspected collusion in the bidding process, and again the fact that master files could not be found. Since CETA acquired the contract from the department, from DAH, the Auditor General declared that the irregular audit be reflected on the DAH annual audit until the matter is resolved. Department of Home Affairs then initiated an independent forensic audit, which, as we have heard, is now being conducted. Is being conducted by Nexia, SAB, NT. That is sort of the background, Chairperson. Can we move over to the next slide? When the forensic audit was instituted, Chairperson, expenditure was already incurred because the tender was already going on. Now, out of the original 409,885,716 contract, the following expenditure has already been incurred. Number 1, purchase of infrastructure, hardware for an amount of 113,383,482 rand and 12 cents has already been purchased. The list of these purchased items, Chairperson, we have annexed it as Annexure A so that the committee can see the real item that has been purchased for this 113 million. The second one was the purchase of software for 110,972,282 rand and 72 cents. Now, in this case, Chairperson, we are saying invoices are available on request. We could not attach them because there are so many invoices. They will have taken spaces and spaces of this presentation. But we are saying anybody who is interested in the invoices that amounted to 210 million, they are available. So the subtotal for this purchase of infrastructure was 224,355,764 rand and 84 cents. Now, the service is rendered by EOH. That means when EOH was carrying on this contract, they provided services for which also invoices are available on request. But those services did cost Home Affairs 56,521,710 rand and 41 cents. So the grand total up to so far, out of the original amount of 409 million, the grand total is 280,877,475 rand and 25 cents, which means, Chairperson, the budget still available out of the original amount is 129 million rand and 8,000 rand, 242 rand. That is the amount that is available in the kitty for this from the original amount of 409 million. Now, there is a dispute amount which I think I must explain to the committee. In terms of the contract, if there are any delays in the implementation of the project, the Department of Home Affairs reserves a right to levy a penalty for every month of delay. In invoking this penalty clause, the Department of Home Affairs levied a penalty of 43,973,141 rand and 80 cents against EOH because the project is already delayed by about 2 years. EOH is contesting this penalty, and hence the amount is under dispute. That's why I did not reflect it on the balance sheet as sort of a balance sheet of expenditure projection I've read. We did not reflect this amount of 43 million because it's under dispute. Now the contract stipulates that such disputes are to be mediated by a senior counsel appointed jointly by the Department of Home Affairs and EOH Mutombo Pty Limited, the contracted company. This joint appointment has already been made, meaning a senior counsel has jointly been appointed by Home Affairs and Mutombo, and the process of starting the mediation will start on the first week of November. I think that is next week. Now comes the issue of exit of EOH. EOH has taken a decision to exit all government contracts, as Sita has already said. Similarly, we now discover that EOH is not only contracted to the Department of Home Affairs, they are contracted to other government departments, and they want to exit all those contracts. And as part of the exit plan from the Department of Home Affairs contract, EOH is proposing to cede the work to a subcontractor. Now, there was a dispute between CETA and the Department of Home Affairs on the plan to cede. In the event of EOH exiting, the contract still need to be salvaged, Chairperson. As Chairperson, you have mentioned many times that we need to salvage this contract. And the reasons are very simple. Every aspect of Home Affairs modernization depends on ABIS. Even the APP that we read to you last week during our last portfolio committee and the MSTF programs, they all depend on ABIS. So if Home Affairs cannot conclude the project to deliver ABIS, it means even our APP and our MTSF are actually at risk, Chairperson. So at all costs, we need to do something to make sure that ABIS is delivered. So in taking forward the exit plan, both the Department of Home Affairs and CETA obtained legal opinions, but from two different legal firms, respectively, meaning each one of them went to obtain their own legal opinions. However, the legal opinions were diametrically opposed to each other. The legal opinion obtained by CETA seems to have been saying seating the subcontractor will be illegal, as it was mentioned in their presentation. But the legal opinion obtained by the Department of Home Affairs, on the other hand, suggests that the seating is permissible subject to certain requirements being met. Now, Chairperson, the rescue plan. The Department of Home Affairs explored two options. Option number one was to go on with this seating to one of the contractors. Option number two is to seat to a totally different company altogether. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages in both options. And the advantages and disadvantages, just to summarize them, will be in terms of pricing. Obviously, the companies won't price the same way. There will be difference in the footprint. That means the footprint that's available in terms of the ICT technologies in the government system or in the Home Affairs system. The possibility of further delays, that once you start up, if you decide to start afresh, there might be further delays, which goes beyond what we have even now. And lastly, the successful execution of the project, meaning whoever you award the final plan to finalize ABIS to, there's a possibility that the successful execution of the project may be at risk in one or the other. Now, the bottom line from the Department of Home Affairs was that in choosing the options, we'll base our choices on the following conditions: that there is no excessive additional financial implications, that there's no fruitless and wasteful expenditure because money has already been spent, Chairperson, that there's no uncertainty about the successful implementation of successful completion of the project. These are the three bottom line conditions which Home Affairs, which will guide Home Affairs in finally selecting who must continue to finalize the project. Now, the meeting with the Department of Home Affairs, the Department of Digital Technologies, and the Department of Telecommunications and Digital Technologies, as represented by the two ministers, as well as CETA, did take place, Chairperson, last week. It was decided that the Department of Home Affairs proceed with the seating, provided that decision is approved by the National Treasury. The Department of Home Affairs has, in a way, can you move over to the last slide? This one, yes. The conclusion slide, this slide was not supposed to be there. Yeah, the Department of Home Affairs has already approached National Treasury for guidance. It is recommended that the Portfolio Committee knows the decision to cede ABIS contract to a suitable contractor, subject to the finalization of the negotiations and approval by National Treasury. We will send correspondence to the Portfolio Committee to notify them about the decision taken once the sitting is finalized. You'll notice, Chairperson, that I'm deliberately leaving the companies involved in the options. I'm leaving the companies that we are negotiating with Treasury for the city process. We are doing so, Chairperson, for the simple reason that this is still a negotiation process, and these are business processes of companies. They cannot be put in the public without processes having been undergone. We do not know what National Treasury will say if we start naming companies and say we are taking this one to National Treasury, and the National Treasury refuse to approve. It will cause us problems. So we are just saying suitable subcontractor, we're just saying company, but eventually when this work is finalized, we'll certainly correspond with the committee and inform them what the final conclusion with the Treasury has been. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. We're going to take honorable members to talk to the presentations. You have heard for yourself, members. I'm going to take members in the following order. Where is the order? We'll start with Honorable Malebu. You can shoot Honorable Malebu and then it will be followed by Honorable Lizanne. Start.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I think firstly, I want to say that this meeting was not meant to point fingers at anyone, neither CETA or the Home Affairs, but it's for us to be able to find a resolve in this challenge that you are having. And having said that, Chair, it's unfortunate that CETA comes here and wants to shift blame on who's responsible for what. And I think we as a portfolio committee, we are not interested in that. What we want to do is to make sure that government resources are not wasted. But also safe to say and remind CETA that they may confidently now speak about the master files having been submitted. After a very or a lengthy period where those files have been missing and no one was coming forth and providing those files. So it's a process that we would have undergone with, and it has taken so long due to the fact that there was no proper cooperation from CETA. And I want to say that any monies that would have been lost in the process, both CETA and Home Affairs must be able to recuperate them. Coming to the process of seeding, Minister Mutwaledi, we are interested in salvaging the project of ABIS because we know that a bulk of Home Affairs work or functions are dependent on that project. So it is important for us to agree that we want to salvage this project so that the work of the Home Affairs can be able to continue effectively. Of course, there are concerns with regard to the process of seeding, ministers would have mentioned. But what I want to understand as well is that will this 129 million that is left in the kitty be sufficient for the seeding or the subcontractor that will take over the project to be able to finish the project? Or will then be any additional cost that will then be required for the project to be finalized? We want to understand that. I support and agree with the fact that we need to sit to a subcontractor who might have some sort of a background on this project instead of looking for or start afresh with a new process of tendering and looking for a new main contractor who may then have need more money or have higher costs in continuing with the project. I also want to find out from CETA if they were aware that EOH Mtombo is contracted to other departments. Because if you were aware, it means then it would have been a bad decision to contract EOH Mtombo, whereas they have other work that they are doing. And safe to say that they would have then be overwhelmed, and hence now they are unable to can then continue with the contract and finish the project as they were expected or contracted to do so. So I want to find out from CETA if they were aware that EOH has other work that is providing or other services that they are providing to other departments. You've never mentioned Comrade Mutwaledi, Minister Mutwaledi, on the legal implications or the requirements that you would need to meet then in order for you to continue with the seeding? You have mentioned that you would have then taken a discussion up with Treasury, but what are other requirements then that are needed for you to be able to be comfortable with the seeding? And if you do know them, have you tested them for you to be able to take a decision to seed? But if you would tick all the boxes, I'm comfortable in supporting the process of seeding. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairperson. And I must say that you know, this whole issue that we're dealing with is becoming quite like a movie. I don't know if I can call it a horror movie, but I remember last time when we left, we were told that somebody passed on with all of the files, and then to learn today that in fact the master files exist, and it's been in existence for 2 years, and we've been chasing files that have been in existence. It's really quite shocking for me. I mean, that people didn't know that it was handed over to a law firm and to the state law advisors. I mean, the story just gets weirder day after day. Last time we left with the impression that somebody actually passed on with the master file, only to find out that it's now in existence. I mean, it's almost like one has got to you know, give this as a story idea to the SABC, because it's becoming like a blockbuster. But nevertheless, I wanted to know from both the Department of Home Affairs and from CETA, who are these officials who knew that the files were in existence, and are they still in your employ of the two departments, and have you suspended them pending investigations of criminal charges, or have they all left? Are they no longer working for you? CETA, I think it's commendable that the acting caretaker tells us that he's now laid criminal charges against various individuals, but we mustn't forget that the AG also highlighted breaches on the side of Home Affairs officials. Yet, I haven't heard the Minister of Home Affairs telling us that anybody has been held to account. So have any sanctions been undertaken against DHA staff in relation to the irregularities identified by the Auditor General for the EOH contract? Because we don't hear the Minister speaking about this. Also, I would like to know from CETA, do we have any indication why EOH is now exiting all government contracts? I mean, surely there should be a reason for this. What went wrong? Why are they no longer able to honor all the contracts? I also need to understand the issue of the penalty fee. Now, if it says in terms of the contract, if there are any delays in the implementation of the project, which in this case has been 2 years, the department reserves the right to levy a penalty for each month. But now this penalty is a process of mediation. Why not just demand the payment of said penalties? Because my worry is that, you know, we are negotiating with people who have let us down, they're in breach of their contract. We've got a right to level penalties, and I'm afraid that if they're going to exit this contract, that they're not going to be paying these penalties. So I understand that there's a mediation process underway, but how long will this mediation process take? Do we have any indication, and how did we get to that penalty amount? I would be interested to know, how did we calculate that penalty amount? Again, I want to ask the Minister, which I did ask in the beginning, what are the cost implications for the Department of Home Affairs for the additional work that this audit firm is going to be doing for us? And then, you know, Chairperson, this has got nothing to do, I'm sorry that I'm raising this now, because this has got nothing to do with the presentation that we had today. But at one stage, Chairperson, we must ask the Minister to come and speak to us about some of the issues that he's been engaging on in the media. I believe that the Minister has uncovered that Shepherd Bushiri is in South Africa illegally. He's held a number of press conferences or media briefings in this regard. And I really want to caution, because it almost seems to me like we're always finding about, our committee is always finding about issues from the media, not from the Minister directly. So I want him to, maybe if we could at our next meeting, engage with the Minister on this issue. As well as, Chairperson, I want to flag that after we had our committee meeting to discuss the issues around the refugees, we did ask the department about the verification of those additional people at the various camps. And it then transpired the very next day that when Home Affairs went to go and do verification at the Payne City Bellville camp, that the Home Affairs officials were actually chased away. They were not allowed to enter that area because the people there told Home Affairs officials that Mr. Balus is in charge there. So again, I would like to say that, we must maybe consider having a standing item each week if we do meet with the minister, that we engage on the issue of the refugees at these 2 points. I know we're going on oversight, but clearly this is becoming our immigration system, in my view, has collapsed. I don't think, we know who's in our country, who's not in our country. And then secondly, the issue of what's transpiring at those camps are becoming quite a concern for me in terms of our national security. So I know that's got nothing to do with the presentation, but I would like us to engage with the minister on these issues as soon as we can. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you, Co-Chair. Honorable Mulikwa, Honorable Ross, Honorable Tito, Honorable Magluva, Honorable Ikhwas, and Honorable Chabani, in that order.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think I'm covered by Honorable Modise, but I just wanted to check because in both the presentation, there was no way where both presentation was speaking about how far the investigation with regard to the irregularities are. So I just want to find out on how far is the department with regard to the investigation on irregularities, and when the investigation report can be finalized and be presented to the portfolio committee. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've been largely covered by Honourable Lazelle, but I'd like to echo what Honourable Modise said. Just about this unseemly wrangle between CETA and the Department of Home Affairs. And it seems to be a recurring theme again and again where, everybody's trying to blame somebody else and it's never Home Affairs' fault in that. But the problem is that when we're dealing with these situations, we need solutions, because in addition to the costs that have been mentioned, we also have the cost where, this is one of several systems where there's a duplicate system running. So while this whole thing takes place, while all these expenses are being incurred, while the investigation is being done, we still have a whole harness system that's running with all its associated costs as well. And so really, I think we need CETA and Home Affairs to really come together and sort this out once and for all. I raised the issue of officers again last week. I've been inundated with calls again this week about people going to Home Affairs and the system is down. And it's an issue that we've also been wrangling with for months on end. And so I'd really like to appeal to the minister to please, we need to get together like grown-ups in a room and sort out these issues and plot a way forward where we stop blaming each other. And yes, if you want to change and you don't want to have CETA as a service provider, that's a policy position from the government point of view. But really, we cannot afford these costs, these multiple duplicate costs that are going on all over the place. The finger pointing, we actually needed a solution, and this is a contract for the Department of Home Affairs that really needs to be sorted out once and for all. We cannot afford these duplicate expenses, Chair. So, my other question in this regard is really in terms of the harness system. While this is going on, how long has that system been going on? Where the ABIS system was already need to be completed, and we still have a harness system that's continuing. What are the costs in that regard? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Tito.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to my colleagues, and also I would like to welcome the presentation done by CETA and also the Department of Home Affairs. Chair, I also concur with Honorable Lazelle on the issue of the missing files and all of those things, because of the files were missing for 2 years and all of a sudden the files are there. And also the Department of Home Affairs, whenever there is a downtime, they are blaming CETA, but today CETA is here, they are not saying anything. So can we just get a clarification
on the issue of the downtime because of also Honorable Ross has raised the issue in terms of downtime. The officers, whenever people are going to Home Affairs department, there is no network and all of those things. So can they also explain to us what is happening and all of those things? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Makluba.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, I just want to start with the following comment. And I would like to, on behalf of the committee, thank Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi and also the Deputy Minister, Mzuza, who have, ever since I've been a member of this committee, attended each and every meeting, pre-COVID-19, post-COVID-19, and after COVID-19. Only once, Dr. Motsoaledi was absent, and Deputy Minister Mzuza. Now, we had a meeting, a very important meeting, where Minister Stella was supposed to be present. And I would say that I think Minister Stella must at least have the decency and apologize to this committee about the shining absence of a meeting that she was supposed to attend. And we all know the day of the absence of Minister Stella, there was court proceedings that might also have it that she has an interest in that. I'm not suggesting that she attended that court proceedings, but I think she must have at least the decency to apologize to this committee on the reasons why she was absent on a very serious issue. Honorable van der Merwe say it has become a movie. To me now, this case has become a laughing stock. Simply because when you listen to Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, government has made an announcement and identified the BDM program as a key project to improve the lives of South Africa. And this is what we want to hear here. We don't want to hear the name and a blame game. We want solutions in this case. Nothing has been said about the fact that we are going to prioritize the Northwest Province, the Free State Province, and the Northern Cape when it comes to this specific issues. Now, safe to say that Minister Stella and the caretaker director are also implicated in the trouble and the problems that we have in this whole saga of ABIS. And there are reports of close ties between Tato Abrams, the minister's husband, that is embroiled in interference with this tender. There are also reports that the minister must tell us today that she has a sound interest when it comes to who must get which tender. And I think we need to be explained whether there is ties or not and what is the real situation in all of this. It is also reported that a minister worked closely behind the scenes with CETA to identify companies for the contracts. So her department mustn't come here and now all of a sudden dump the stuff onto Home Affairs or other individuals. Let me speak to the findings of irregular spending. We've been told last that the migration of this project comes since 2015. It has migrated from harness to the ABIS system. Now, the absence, I want to get to the documents that my colleagues is speaking about. The absence of those documents has it that it meant of what Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi has said, that a 409 million was regarded irregular. Now, if we are not solving this problem, we will never know the truth behind this. So is the audit now questionable? Because all of a sudden now the master files has been found. We have been told about a subcontractor. We have also been told the reasons why EOH is giving it to a subcontractor. Words has been used in this very same committee that the funds of EOH was exhausted. Now you have an exhausted company that cannot produce the job for us, is now sitting and has been penalized, who has also a dispute as far as this penalized is concerned. Now, 2017, it has been told, we have been told that someone died, the late Mr. Lawrence Swanepoel. And one of my colleagues has even said, may his soul rest in peace. Now, in terms of the compliance, the caretaker director has told us that everything needs to be reconstructed, and it makes the Auditor General's findings unchanged. This is what we has been told here. Now, my colleague, Honorable Roos, in the previous meeting has asked the following question. He wanted details of the reported suspension of 183 people, etc. I haven't seen that. I'm not too sure whether CETA is in a position to give that to us so that we can interrogate that and to see how does this stems in with the quantity of peoples that has been mentioned in terms of the problems that we have. Now, I want to raise the following concerns also. The previous meeting, a permanent question has been asked. Why is it? And has any other minister been contacted, involved? Has this matter been discussed? The question was no. It hasn't been discussed. Okay, I took it for granted that between the two immediate ministers who is in this meeting, there has been discussions. But now we've been told that we will now find out whether Treasury will give approval. Has this been discussed with the finance minister? Simply also because with the current problems and situation that we are facing as far as finances is concerned. Now, one of the proposals of one of the scripts or submission by researchers said that the problems were not discussed, and it further says that irregular expenditure reflect on the Department of Home Affairs. So to some extent, we have brothers and sisters here who are now blaming one another. We have CETA blaming DHA and DHA blaming CETA. We have to get to the core of this, and I can agree with Honorable Musa that this thing will not be solved now. So we also have been told, and I think that we need a response on this, Chairperson, that the EOH might have been unfairly favored in all of this. And it is for this reason that Minister Stella, as well as the caretaker director, must speak to this and inform us what was their specific role, specifically with what we as the public is reading outside on their role as far as this saga within her department is concerned. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me start by acknowledging both presentations from Minister Stella and Minister Motsoaledi, and say a lot has been covered by the colleagues. But where I'm standing, the question goes to Minister Motsoaledi to say, there are negotiations between National Treasury and the Department of Home Affairs. And in one of the recommendations, they recommend that the committee must note the decision to cede ABIS to a suitable subcontractor is according to their communications or negotiations. Is there a possibility that this cannot be approved by the National Treasury, because the minister is even saying the correspondence will be sent to the portfolio committee, notifying about the decision once it has been taken and finalized. So where I'm sitting, we are given an understanding that this will go accordingly. It's not as if there will be a negative impact or a negative results from the negotiation between the Home Affairs and this one. And if maybe according to the negotiations, then it will be approved for the subcontractor to be seeded with the ABIS contract, it is okay. But also, the minister is saying to us that he will send us a letter. Should we just sit as the committee and wait for the letter to come? Don't you think that we should maybe have time frames to say, this is how long we will wait for us to be furnished with the letter, or should we just sit? Or maybe he should just inform us how far are the negotiations between the Department of Home Affairs and National Treasury. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mwala.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much, Chairperson. Once more, let me join our own, my colleagues who spoke before me on those issues. Chair, let me first indicate that in our previous meetings, we have raised a number of issues regarding this matter. And to me, it's now like we are going back and back and back on those issues. And I think as a committee, we need to, at some point, reach a consensus and a conclusion on those issues, because we can't be speaking one and the same matter time and again. We've got a number of issues as a committee that we need to handle, that we need to deal with, not one and the same matter. Joining the last speaker, Honorable Lohase, I want to agree with and other honorable members, Honorable Malebu, on the issues that they've raised. Because when we go to the recommendations of this document by Minister Motsoaledi, it indicates that already the National Treasury has been approached for a guidance, and it suggests that what we need to do as a committee, we need to wait for what will be the outcomes of the National Treasury on the guidance that they are requesting as the Department of Home Affairs, because already they've already approached the National Treasury on this matter. And if we're speaking about the suitable contractor, what will be the process, Honorable Minister, in identifying the suitable contractor so that this matter can be at the finalization of negotiations and approval by the Treasury? Honorable Lohase is correct that are there any possibilities that cannot be approved by the National Treasury or not? And in the meantime, what will happen in the process? Because we also need to know where we stand and what will happen. And one other matter that I think I want to agree with one colleague, Honorable Chairperson, through you. It's important. I know that there are a festival of issues, a number of issues transpiring in the process, the media and all that. Is there any way, not to say we want to, like for example, we want the minister to each and every time tell us when he goes to the media, especially Dr. Motsoaledi, on issues, but is there any way where we can close the gap so that some of the issues we don't just get them on media, and probably the chairperson must be informed, or the whip of the committee must be informed, so that we can get a briefing on each and every matter, because it will be unfair for honorable members of this committee to each and every time, at some point, not every time, let me correct it, but to at some point where we'll find some other issues on the media and all that. I know there are issues that are urgent, Honorable Minister, where you need to urgently respond, but I will appreciate if we can also be taken on board even if it's not through the committee, but probably through the chairperson or the whip or whosoever, so that they know how to communicate with other honorable members on those issues. We're speaking about the co-chair, Honorable Lizelle, spoke about the one penny matter now that is all over the media, which we cannot avoid, even if it's not part of this presentation, but we cannot avoid it. The issue of Bushir and the likes. What is it? What can we be taken into confidence on what is happening? Because now we will find issues on the media, some fighting the minister and all that, and it becomes a problem. Because these are matters of the committee and the committee must be taken into confidence on those issues. In our last meeting, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable McGlover raises a number of issues, which partly I agree with him. The only part that I don't agree with him is that Honorable Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams apologized to that meeting. And the department was there, CETA was there. Now, Honorable McGlover can't come here and grandstand as if there was no apology for Honorable Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams. We all have got a number of issues. Yes, we have noted her apology, and we requested that in our next meeting, we will appreciate her presence. Now she's present today here, and she's here to clarify some of the issues. Now we can't go back and say, no, probably she's undermining the committee and all that. All of us, we have got other responsibilities, which I think we need to recognize that. So that matter, I think it was resolved in our last meeting. So Honorable McGlover, I don't agree with him when he comes here and now want to stand and raise a number of issues which are very petty and cannot be accepted to some of us in this committee. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Honorable Likota. Going one, going two, going three, going one, going three, going two. Hello? Yes, you are recognized. McGlover.
Chairperson, can you hear me?
Thank you. Correct.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, Chair, I have joined this meeting at the beginning of the input by the CETA, after Minister Ndabeni asked that gentleman to give us a report. Now, I do want to say to this committee meeting, our task as a committee of parliament is to monitor that public funds that have been set aside for the work of the department that we are looking after. We must be there to ensure that those funds are employed appropriately. Now, and if we discuss a matter, we must produce a decision of the committee. And we must go and report to the House when the right time comes. Now, we have been discussing this thing for a long time. But this morning, I was quite astounded that after struggling with what happened with this project, ultimately, CETA comes and says to us, no, everything we have done has been perfect and all of that and so on. Indeed, they even reveal information that suggests that the money that was, the papers that were supposed to have gone to the grave with some individual did not in fact go to the grave. Those are the issues we have to comment on those issues. We have to say who brought information to this committee to say that those documents have gone with somebody who passed on. I'm no longer sure now whether that person indeed or those people have passed on. I'm not sure now, or were they resurrected? And if the House asks us, now, where did you suddenly get these documents now? What are we going to say? Now, and whilst we are busy with that as a committee, we now get information that in fact this matter has already passed this committee stage. It's already back to Treasury, it's across to Treasury. Who took the decision that this matter must go to Treasury when we are still trying to find out what happened to the money, where it went wrong and all of that? So now we don't know how this matter passed us and went to Treasury. Did we send a report to Treasury to say, now we think you must sort that out? I understand that Parliament is expecting us to come with a report to tell them what we have found, what happened to the money that we had undertaken this work with. Well, or rather that the department undertook with, and because we had to carry oversight of that, we must now give them a report as to what actually happened to that. But now we are already confronted with a report that says, no, this matter is with Treasury. What is it doing with Treasury? Who decided it must go to Treasury? But I am not aware of a report that we took in a meeting and decided it must now go to Treasury. And I must say, comrades, that when we are assigned to the committees, it is to come to carry out oversight on whether the money employed for this or assigned to these departments is doing the work that is supposed to have been done. Now we are already confronted with how much money is left now. And the fact, in my view, that the body that was dealing with this had multiple projects it was dealing with a number of different departments. How did it come about? CETA hasn't explained to us that the people that were dealing with this work that we are supposed to be doing were actually assigned to a number of different projects in different departments. This is a very serious violation in terms of financial management. Why was there only one company that could do all the work of these different departments? And now this body is also decided, no, now it is leaving. And now we must now carry the burden of taking this and find somebody who can take over this work. When did we decide to do that? Now, Comrade Chair and comrades in the committees, in this committee, in CETA, and all of that, we have not done the work we are supposed to have done. We need to produce a report that says so much money was assigned to be done here. This was what was decided it should be done with this money. CETA was assigned to work with the relevant body here in this, and we must say what happened to that. And we must say what our recommendation is. I think that we must indicate quite clearly to CETA that no, we need a report that we can take to the House, not to Treasury, to the House. We can't decide to change, to assign this project assigned to us. Now we decide, no, we are changing halfway without reporting to Parliament. No, we are changing, we are now going to give it to Treasury. We can't do that. Because if we do that, we must go and tell Parliament why we are now deciding to change halfway. Why are we deciding to change halfway when we have spent only part of the money? If there's money that is missing, are we going to pay it out of our pockets? Who's going to pay that money? No. Let's give an answer to this principal question. These monies that are missing, that have not been used as they should have been, who is responsible for them? Who is going to carry the burden of paying that money? It's not going to be us. We are here to monitor whether the money of the public has been used as it should have been. If it has not been, we have a duty to establish who misused that money, not to find somebody else who can take responsibility. We must find here in these committees that are involved, we must find who misused that money. And that money must be paid by those, or they must carry the consequences of what they have not done right. Then the rest of the other issues can then follow. But please, let this Committee of Home Affairs, this Committee of CETA, that is responsible for CETAs and all of these committees, between ourselves, let's establish what happened to the public funds. Where are they? And what are we going to tell Parliament? Because that's our function. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Chaban.
Thank you, Chair, for this report, Chairperson. Let me start by appreciating the Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams and Minister Aaron Motsoaledi for putting collective heads focus on this mess that we're finding ourselves in. I think that is appreciated. And the energy to assist the committee to understand and comprehend the challenges that are being faced by CETA as an institution, which was created in the main by themselves as cabinet and those that have served before in cabinet. Veteran Lekota was part of that initiative process. Chair, if you go back to our meeting when we were dealing with this matter of CETA, Minister Ndabeni did attend one of our meetings where we summoned CETA. At that time, the acting director general was Mr. Mavuso Tulan. He formed part of that meeting and we had to reject the CETA report. I'm moving on the lane of Honorable Muela that in the last meeting, an apology was rendered However, members had concerns on her absence. And today she's here to account and respond to the work that she has employed these members who are presenting us to do, presenting the report to the committee. I think that appreciation of presence must be appreciated. This matter of CETA, it has been with us for long, as indicated by Honorable McCluver and Honorable Veteran Lukota. Now, we've put our task and roles in the definition of Mr. Honorable Lukota, exert our energy, prioritize this work, and I think we must appreciate this collective of the committee that we've arrived at this point with focus, guided by the Auditor General and members of the committee. And the decision was taken, I think we must refresh, because one of the important areas is for members to follow detail when a subject is being presented to committees and not lose sight of previous meetings. We as a committee, have taken that decision that there must be a rescue plan given the challenges of this EOH, and the department must be seized with that process. We agreed on two principles. One is the matter of financial monies that the departments must account to the committee and parliament. Two, the services that our people on the ground who elected us, all of us to be in the committee, in parliament. Those are the two principles that we've guided our resolve so that we give mandate to department to have a rescue plan so this project is rescued. I think Honorable Lizelle has indicated that systems get locked. We're going for local government next year election, next year, 2021. Our people will need services to this department. Ourselves as members of the committee and government will be mobilizing our people to get services, IDs and that, so that they're able to participate in these democratic local government elections. So the delay on the part increased the inefficiency of the department given the challenges of this project. So we took that decision that there must be a rescue plan, and part of the rescue plan is to align coherent systems, as Honorable Modisa has indicated, and I think the part of CETA is indicated on the issue of risk management that the department has to do. And the department is on that course to engage with the auditor and the treasurer, so that the rescue plan is able to respond to this question that will be presenting in Parliament, service to our people, and money used. I think that's our resolve in how we're trying to say that. And secondly, the investigation process that is going on is going to outline in detail what were the irregular issues, what were issues that corrupt activities presented to our committee, and the committee will have authority of mind and clarity of purpose to present to Parliament. This is a report that we've sanctioned as Parliament. This is an investigation report we have endorsed. These are the issues. And we need to go to Parliament with clear authority on detail of issues. If you have listened to the President carefully, given the economic recovery plan, in his closing, he indicated, the President, in his responses, that our weaknesses is passive implementation because our people are looking for service. So this is part of us monitoring the department and state organs to implement our resolve as members of parliament. We must not go back to parliament and cry passive. There's no implementation on these things. They must, our people are struggling on the ground. They need services. Go to the villages offices today, Minister, walk in. There'll be queues. You ask, the system have collapsed. So we must make sure that part of our argument on this crisis of trying to rescue this project, we are alive to these two principles, and our people on the ground must get services. Chair, if you listen carefully to the presentation of the SETA, and over time you've listened to the report, you've read the report, you can clearly identify that in the main, there's inconsistency of information and emerging of new things that are being raised. And I think I want SETA to just to labor a bit, just to clarify on these two issues, this issue which I think in one of the presentation last year, it was raised in the report that we have rejected. This matter of the accreditation award file, accreditation master file and award master file. The Auditor General made an opinion on either on the accreditation master file or award master file. I want SETA to labor us on that area. That chairperson affirms the issue of the employee who's late, who the blame was apportioned to him or her. I can't recall whether it's him or her, but it was apportioned to that person that he has died with well, they left with the file, something like that. But chairperson, we must say that to the Home Affairs and SETA in terms of the presentations. They frame in terms of the decision that they must implement, we must endorse it. And in our next interaction with these bodies, two institutions, I mean the Home Affairs and SETA, we must come and receive implementation of work done. I think it's what the brief is saying to us now. Implementation of the work done, treasury engagement continues, the principle of the company that is mobilized within, understand the terrain we're dealing with, is acceded with the treasury. The issues that we raise, legal areas that the department must engage on, so that what SETA is raising on the risk issues, it must not come back and the Auditor General must come and highlight it. So we must be clear as a committee chair that we need a thorough and legit with the principle of service to our people. That's our interest, Chair. Our people are struggling. This IT system, you go to Home Affairs departments are out. The last 2 points, Chair, which I wanted to raise. I think SETA generally it cut across, if you go to department, it has problems with other departments on these issues of the contracts, which companies, department, they're getting services, including this EOH. But we must appreciate the reorganization, I think, led by the minister in terms of what they need to reorganize the internal system of SETA in order to actually meet its mandate as per the law and able to rescue itself from the internal problems that it has. It can't do it now in the next 2 or 3 months, but it must have a task to reorganize. I think we must appreciate that work, Minister Ndabe. Minister Aaron Motsoaledi, our call is services to the people, and we want a time frame that must be exacted on the department and treasury so that our people and services benefit from that from that outcome. I agree on Honorable Lizel and Honorable Muela that there must be an opportunity for the minister to take members of the committee into confidence on certain issues. We know separate issues of separation of powers that you can execute your work, but it's important for members of the committee not to find themselves with no clarity on the issues that they preside on or oversight on. We're motivating this matter because in the last meeting of this refugee matter, there are new issues that came, which could have been taken to confidence prior of a long-time members of the committee. There are new matters that arise there that has compelled the committee to conduct an oversight in that city of a Cape Town. So that principle must find comfort at your level, Minister, to bounce issues to members of the committee if there are issues that we must not chase issues, because our responsibility also is to make sure that we're able to assert clarity and assist where we can as members of the committee to the issues that are run by the department. So those are my submissions, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Thank you for your great inputs. I'm going to take responses now. I will start from the Minister of Communications. You will direct the Honorable Stella how your officials will interact in terms of answering questions, but we'll start with you, and then I'm advised that your Deputy Minister is not here and the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs. So I'll start with you. You'll direct us to how the answering goes about, and we'll then follow with Honorable Motsoaledi. Over to you, leadership.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you to all the honorable members that have made their inputs. Chairperson, I'll just respond to a few things, and then with your permission, I will then hand over to the executive caretaker of CETA to talk to some issues. Chairperson, I just want to talk to the three things that we are looking at as you've been asking the questions over the number of months we've been engaging on this matter from last year and now. What we're looking at are three components, which the first one talks to the missing file, which all these irregularities arise from when it started missing and all that. I did hear some members that are raising concerns that CETA has been very inconsistent in terms of the responses that they've been providing or the information they've been providing to the portfolio committee, and it is true. And one of the reasons that has led to that is that when the file was asked about, the people who were dealing with were at SCM, but nobody thought about the fact that when there was a dispute by a company that was challenging the contract against EOH, saying both CETA and Home Affairs have awarded the contract irregularly, or it was wrongly awarded. That's when then they went to court. That's when the Department of Home Affairs contracted the state law advisors, and CETA contracted their own legal advisors. Now, how did the files get to be lost in that? Because what then transpired, because when they went to court, the CETA and Home Affairs were together as they were taken to court about, by that challenging subcontractor. Then when they went there, they won the case on the issue that the contract has been awarded illegally or there was any corruption involved in it. They won that case together, CETA and Home Affairs. But now the issue arises on the fact that when CETA and Home Affairs briefed their lawyers and gave them the files that are the files that the Auditor General is talking about, they did not then collect those files back to their institutions, being Department of Home Affairs and CETA in this context. And nobody followed up on where are these files until this was raised, when it was raised. And of course, the first thing to do is to say, well, from SETA side, we allocate officials for each and every department that are dealing with a particular contract. The first thing was to go to those individuals that were involved. And then that's when the issue of a person who died arose, because those were the two. But then after the announcement, when SETA says, we're going to be taking people to court, we're going to be charging people, that's when they got this information that there is a file. Actually, the state law advisors then said, actually, we do have a file because Home Affairs gave us the file. As we undertook in the last meeting, Chairperson and the honorable members, we did say we'll conduct investigation in-house. And of course, one of the things, having then received this information that the state law advisors have had the file for 2 years and nobody has asked about it or said it's there, then the first thing to do was to say if there was a court matter, because also in appreciation of this law, because it's different stakeholders that have been working on the matter, although it's the same organization. So the first thing that was done was to say, if then there was a court process, then who was representing SETA? Who's the legal person from SETA? In this context, Vincent, which is why, again, Mr. Gase reported that we are charging Vincent because he could have alerted SETA and therefore helped in the process to say, we had not collected the file when it went for the legal previews. That's the first thing. And as I said, honorable members, all these, as the whip says, all these irregularities arise because of that document that the Auditor General says we could not find information because we did not have access to this file. Therefore, this is why we say it is irregular and all that. The second aspect of what we are dealing with is the issue now on procurement. The role played by SETA in all, whether it's this department or the other department. On the procurement side, that as SETA, we go as far as the award process. After the tender is awarded, which is what was challenged and was won in court. After the tender is awarded, and then the next phase is for the client department in terms of the service that they had requested SETA to have in terms of procuring for. In this context, as we talk about accountability of public funds, what happened in terms of service delivery, it is something that as SETA, we are not involved in. I want to apologize up front. Honorable members feel like we're here for a blame game. We're shifting. We are not shifting. We are trying to provide the responsibilities. And just like you, honorable members, because as I said, this is not a process, Honorable Magloa, that started with me and this caretaker, as you want to know what was our involvement. I was not a minister 3 years back. Mr. Gase was not at SETA 3 years back. So this is something that we all have inherited. But just like yourselves, we rely and depend on the information provided to us by those that were there before us. And therefore, when we provide information, we say, this is what we have, because that's what we have at our disposal, which is why we then said, there's a need for us to get into a detailed investigation, because also for us, it doesn't make sense that for 2 full years, nobody knows about the file. But as I said, unfortunately, both of us were not there, just like Minister Motsoaledi was not there at Home Affairs. But he will rely on the information that he provides. He will rely on the information that's provided by the department. And then when he comes to Parliament, he will speak on those issues. And that's the issue that happened. The last issue, again, I said it's the missing file that led to the irregularities. It's the issue of the procurement, and then I spoke of the role of SETA that ends at award level. The third issue is that we are of what we are talking about in terms of the public funds, the service delivery element, which then we cannot talk to because we are not involved if a service provider has implemented or not. It is a client department that gets to monitor that work. It is the client department that does as they're supposed to do. Ours ends at the award level. Honorable Kota raises a very important question. He says, why are we talking now about Treasury whilst they had instituted an investigation in terms of calling us as the departments that must account to Parliament to say, what is it that has happened that we find ourselves in this mess that we are in? The Treasury report that he's talking to, we did not take a report to Treasury. All we did, because of the procurement element, is to advise when a recommendation is made that let's then go for a subcontractor, do this, and that, and then our responsibility is to advise that this is beyond us. Therefore, if Treasury approves that process, then we can then act on that. But as we advise, we also talk to the potential risks and threats to that we want to achieve both as government in this context. And this is what SITA has done, that as there has been engagement between Department of Home Affairs and SITA said we cannot say go ahead with that. But if Treasury allows you, based on the laws that the acting, the caretaker spoke about, Mr. Gay said, to say the PPFMA and SITA Act, those have to be taken into consideration. And at all times, honorable members, because of what we find ourselves in, because of what we always also understand, if you have listened even with the previous CEO at SITA, there's lots of corrupt activities that unfortunately do not only affect SITA, but also the officials of client departments, which is why when we take decisions and actions against those, even when we conduct investigation, we can only conduct in the area where we have authority on. In this context, it is SITA and the employees that we have. What happens on the other leg, then we cannot do anything. It depends, which is what Minister Motsoaledi is reporting about, that the investigation is ongoing, and then they have requested that they be given more time. And ourselves as SITA, we couldn't institute an investigation on that because that was the responsibility of Department of Home Affairs. All we could do was to say we're going to collaborate in terms of providing information from our side. And when the report is finalized, and then we able to come with Minister Motsoaledi as he gives us the report, and then we come to Parliament to say these are the findings. And indeed, if there are people, again, that are affected from SITA side, we act on them. But on the other side, we cannot act. The last issue, again, honorable members, that I would like to apologize for. I do take note. Of course, I fully agree with the honorable members. Honorable Maglua may want to hear it from me, as in terms of my voice. Honorable Maglua, as I stated in my letter of apology on the 26th of August, I could not attend the portfolio committee due to a cabinet commitment that I had, and unfortunately, I had presentations to make. As I stated in that letter, I state again, I hope you will accept the apology now that it is verbal. It is not in any manner meant to undermine the portfolio committee, as I have never done that. Hence, the whip spoke to that the first meeting I was here, and I only missed one. And again, it was something that was out of control. The second issue, again, I guess, Honorable Maglua, as you highlighted and went on a number of things that I believe you're taking them from reliable sources as written in the media, that if you have more interest, if the committee allows, if you want us to come and account on those, as we have given account both to the Portfolio Committee of Communications and the public in this context on the matters that have been raised, feel free to write to us and we'll come and make a presentation. Unfortunately, it was not included in the agenda. If it was, I would have made sure that we will update you on the BDM process, because I understand that honorable members have an interest, because this is a government program, but also it affects the constituencies that you lead. Therefore, when we are given with an opportunity to come and update, this portfolio committee will come and do so if a request is allowed. What I will not allow, Honorable Maglova, is for you to cast aspersions on me, on things that you choose what you want to take from the public, because as you make reference to the media articles that have continued to try to tarnish my name, we had responded to those, but of course, it is not in your interest to look into those and to say, this is what you have said, and therefore, what do you say today? I would want to invite you as a committed member, a representative of the public of South Africa, to do right on every time there's corruption allegations that are raised, not to politic about it. Corruption is a very sensitive matter, because it deprives our people of opportunities and the good service that they're supposed to be enjoying, because we're busy playing politics around it. If you, honorable member, having read those articles, have any belief, or even if it's a bit tiny evidence from those that are providing that information, if you can reach out to them, because they are there in the public. Unfortunately, I can't account for them because I'm not the source of the papers. Feel free to attract the law enforcement agencies. I've said that to all. I've said it in portfolio committee. I've said it in public. Anybody who has evidence of those in this country, and more especially as the ANC government, who have taken a bold stance that was never seen even by those that came before the democratic government that we have today. Those that knew that there was nothing like corruption because it favored them. And then as we were vigilant of what corruption does to our people, we took a conscious decision as the ANC and the government that we are part of have to implement those policies of the ANC. And therefore, this is why we call upon everyone, Honorable Maglof, to play their part in ensuring that our people are not deprived of the good, and that we expose the rot that is there, including the perpetrators of that. So that's just my appeal to the allegations that you are presenting here, making them as statements, that please afford yourself that right, and also afford me that right to go and appear on what has been laid against my name. Chairperson, we are not coming here to this portfolio committee to say as SETA we are perfect. We are not perfect. The reason when we came here, the first thing I explained was that we are repurposing SETA. Because one of the things that happened in the past, unfortunately, that we inherit, as the whip said, it was that of making SETA just a procurement agency, which therefore attracts lots of attention and interest, both from service provider and anybody else that stands to benefit. Instead of us providing services to government, we're finding ourselves to be caught in between on processes that are not clearly understood by many, that what becomes our role as SETA, according to the current law passed by this parliament that we have, that as we provide reports even now, we go to the House. When we then decide to review the law, in the meantime, the current law will be existing. But how do you make sure that as we are repurposing SETA, we also meet the expectations of the public of South Africa in terms of getting that service that they are supposed to get? And that talks to us investing in capacity for SETA whilst we are remodeling it, which is something, as the whip said, is not going to take 3 months to go for it to be finalized. Chairperson, we would then, we welcome the fact that you've given the Minister of Home Affairs an opportunity to come and give account in February in terms of the investigation that is done. Because as I said, unfortunately, we can do up to so far. And for now, this is all we can do. Until that report comes, then we're able to chase and say, where Nastela or Lisela, therefore, how do we deal with you? Even if they're no longer in the employ of SETA, as the caretaker said, we're going to be chasing, because as government, we have taken that decision that if it means that we must blacklist people who have been found to commit all these ills, we are going to blacklist them. And ourselves as the department and SETA are still committed to that, to make sure that your work is easy. We do not come here and be shifting the ball and all that, but we have a responsibility to explain and give facts. But one thing that I unfortunately, as the minister, do not have a privilege of is that of getting involved in procurement and choosing who must do what. Unfortunately, that one the law does not allow. And I am saying this, honorable members, because as we take these decisions and discussions that we have, we should also try to make sure that we protect everything. We hold people accountable, we advise accordingly, we take decisions, because we do not want ourselves to be called in some funny platforms to explain why we did certain things. And Honorable Maglover, once more, as you said, in the BDM process, that this minister with SETA does the choosing of contractors behind my back. I guess you give me too much power, because the laws of this country are very clear on what must happen. And again, if you have evidence in that, please feel free. And as I said, I was not a minister. Your memory may have escaped you for a minute, but I was never a minister for 3 years. So I can't be specifically held accountable. How did I choose EOH? Even now that I'm a minister, I do not choose service providers, but just like a public rep and a shareholder, I have an interest in making sure that when Minister Motsoaledi is complaining about a service, I go to the implementing agency to seek information and that things must be corrected. And that's where my job ends, honorable members. I want to thank you for affording us this opportunity to put our side of the story and report on the progress that we have done. I'm not sure if the caretaker is fine from the issues that I've raised, and I would like to hand over back to yourselves, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Caretaker, are you fine? I'll now hand over to the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Motsoaledi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members of the committee. Chairperson, let me start by dealing with 3 issues that are not on the agenda of today's meeting, but have been raised sharply by members and several members, and it's clear that the committee wants to hear something about it. Firstly, the issue of Bushiri, that we called a press conference without informing the committee, and the committee has to hear this in the media. Firstly, Chairperson, the Department of Home Affairs held no press conference about the issue of Bushiri, but conducted several media interviews at the instance of the media. We did not call a press conference and say we are going to report about the issues of Bushiri. And we still believe those issues, because they are to deal with the immigration and the way the department functions, and it affects the country, we still believe we must come in front of the committee and brief them about exactly what was taking place. But what we have seen over the past few days, which you call press conferences, Honorable Lizel van der Merwe, was that there was a court case involving this matter, not the court case between Bushiri and Hawks, no, a different court case about this issue of immigration. And one of the TV stations was in court, and they came out with a narrative that Home Affairs has lost a case against Bushiri. And they phoned us and said, no, we were in court, you lost a big case against Bushiri. Can you clarify us how you lost? And we said, no, we didn't lose any case. This is what happened. Let us come and explain to you. What they meant of that we have lost the case, Chairperson, was the fact that, as we've already explained, the fact that the Hawks were investigating several irregularities, several what they call criminal transgressions by the Bushiris, and they found lots and lots of discrepancies about Home Affairs, about their documentation, because when you investigate business matters, you need identity documents, you need lots of things. Now, Home Affairs investigated and found the issues I was mentioning about when did they come in, what transgression did they do, how did they get their documents, etc., etc. And Home Affairs came upon a conclusion that the documents they got were irregular, and some of them, they got them through fraudulent means. In terms of legal procedures, audio alteram partem, Home Affairs then wrote to Bushiri and said, look, can you explain these discrepancies? Chairperson, you are aware, when you take action against somebody, for instance, let me give you an example. If you have to suspend somebody, you don't just wake up and suspend them. You write them a letter and say, I'm giving you 24 hours or 48 hours, within which you must explain why I can't go on with this action. And depending on their answer, you then carry on the action. If you don't do that, the court will come and say it means your actions were predetermined. You did not even care to listen to the other party. So Home Affairs did write letters to Bushiri and gave them 30 days to do that. The first letter was mysteriously withdrawn. That's the matter we're still investigating. The second one was also mysteriously withdrawn. We take that very seriously and we are still investigating. And the third letter of giving 30 days, he took it to court and said, no, but I am being charged by the Hawks for criminal offenses. And here is Home Affairs also chasing me to answer some questions. If I answer, I will incriminate myself on the Hawks case. So can the court allow me not to answer until such that time I plead my case in court against the Hawks? And that is the judgment the court made, that we must wait instead of for 30 days, we must wait until the first appearance of the Bushiris in court. And when they appear there and plead, then Home Affairs can go on with this, because our initial plan was 30 days. Now the media thought it's a loss, and they came to us with guns blazing that we lost the case and all that. And we said no, but one question led to the other. It would have been difficult, Chairperson, and a communication nightmare for me to say, no, I can't answer this question because we still need to go to inform the portfolio committee. I'm sure even yourself, you'll not have loved that, to hear something like that, where the department is suddenly unable, is suddenly dumb and unable to answer questions. We did, Chairperson, and for your information, we don't agree with this judgment that we must wait until Bushiri pleads, because what we are charging, what we are asking for clarity for that 30 days is an immigration matter, and what is in court for criminal cases and fraud cases in terms of businesses and monies. We are just worried about the immigration. So for that reason, when the judgment was passed, we immediately appealed. We've got an appeal now that no, we don't think it's fair for the court to stop us until the person pleads. We just want him to answer. He has got documents in his possession, and we want answers about how those documents were obtained. So that's the issue of Bushiri, Chairperson. So it's still very far from over, and we want to come to the committee, if the committee invites us, to come and clarify point by point what actually were we talking about, the things you saw on the media. The second issue is about what happened in Cape Town, Chairperson. Let me start by saying we reject very strongly the assertion by Honorable Lisel van der Merwe that the immigration system has collapsed simply based on what is happening in Cape Town. We have got millions of immigrants all over the country, in every single province and every corner of this country. But just because there is something wrong that is happening in Cape Town, that does not constitute a collapse of the immigration system. We want to reject that in total because it is not true. Now, Chairperson, what happened in Cape Town, and the committee says again, we did not report to them. You might have forgotten. In our last meeting where we were reporting this matter, I reported to the committee that because of the COVID-19, the Refugee Appeals Authority and SCRA, Standing Committee on Refugee Affairs, could not go to those tents where we've put people because of COVID-19. They could not go to them to conduct their work. But immediately we moved to lock level 1. They started. And when I reported to you, I said they've been there for 20 days because I reported to you on the 20th, if not the 21st. I said they've been there for 20 days. They are doing their work. And in doing their work, they are discovering certain things. People who are not supposed to be there, people who are supposed to leave because now their appeals have failed and all that. Now, on the day in question where it's mentioned that there were assaults, that was last week, the Refugee Authority and SCRA asked immigration officials to accompany them because they were going to point to certain people who immigration officials need to take action against. The immigration officials invited police, and there were about 30 police people there. When they arrived there, immigration officials were assaulted. They were assaulted, and as we're talking now, they reported assault cases in court. We've got medical certificates to show that. The police did not act there because they said they never expected that there's going to be war. They were going there to make sure that things go right. And they said if they started fighting, there was going to be disaster because the people who were fighting were prepared to use everything. For instance, We have got a report about a woman who rushed to the police and tried to drop her baby. She was carrying a baby, tried to drop the baby to the ground in order to blame police. It will have been news and international news now that police went there. They are so inhuman that they dropped a young baby and who is injured. The mother wanted to drop the baby personally to blame police. So police pulled back and they said, look, we need planning because we never thought we are faced with people who are fighting. We thought we are faced with people who are refugees and immigrants who are vulnerable, but not people who are assaulting others. And so we brought the Metro because this committee told us very strongly that the squabble between the Metro and Home Affairs must come to an end. We need to work together. We said Metro Police must help, and indeed they agreed, the Metro agreed, and they said in order to execute this, understanding that we have got people who are assaulting others, they need to plan. Yesterday, SAPS and Metro spent the whole day in a planning session. Today, that planning session is going to go on. They've chosen a day which I'm not at liberty to say publicly here, that they are going to carry on that project. They'll be well prepared, and they'll be prepared to protect immigration officials, to protect our refugee authority officials, appeals authority officials, to prepare standing committee on refugee affairs officials if there are any assault, and to arrest anybody who is doing anything. But they need to prepare. So they were preparing yesterday, and they are still busy today preparing. And as I'm saying, Chairperson, please don't force me to disclose their strategies as to what day and all that, because they are now realizing that they are faced with a force that is fighting back when the laws of the country are being applied. That is the issue about what's happening in Cape Town, Chairperson. And we still give you reports. Honorable Lisel van der Merwe last week mentioned that she has got reports about people who actually go to sleep there and go to work and they've got homes. We have got that report. We have got that report. Will give you names, number plates, and who works where and who reports where. But it was not yet time to give it to the committee last week when we report. We have already done that work, and we'll show you that so and so stays here, so and so works here, so and so goes there every day, but come and sleep here. The reason is because, Chairperson, people there have declared that they still want to go to Canada. And they were told that anybody who doesn't show themselves in the camp, when the time to go to Canada comes, they will be excluded. There is also a belief that the state is going to be giving housing. And
I'm suggesting, Minister, that you don't concentrate much on the one that the committee will be dealing with on Friday. Those details you will give them on Friday when on the oversight. Let's concentrate on mainly on what is before us and try to find a way forward.
Okay. Well, Chairperson, as you are aware, I was just mentioning it because committee members came strongly on these issues. Then the issue of the downtime, the last one, Chairperson, please allow me. The downtown, it is a very painful thing for us because we receive these phone calls, especially myself, every day. When this and that office is not working, people phone me. So I don't read about it in the media, or it doesn't get reported to me by officials before. It gets reported to me by members of the public who say, I've been here in the queue and systems have collapsed. And Honorable Tito said we are blaming CETA. We're not blaming CETA. We are using CETA networks. The networks that are being used there are CETA. But there are 5 other companies that are giving us their software. We've got SARS there that is conducting our live capture. What we call a live capture, we're using SARS systems. There is IBM. There are many, I think there are about 5 companies. Chairperson, we have really brought those companies together in Centurion. There's a place there where the CEOs of these companies meet every day to give us exactly what is going on. They meet together every day and to tell us what's going on. Then they find an answer. Then 2 days later, systems collapse again. We are still waiting. If you had time, Chairperson, I'll allow Mr. Mavuso, who is sitting there with them, a DDG, who have asked him to leave the department and sit there with them to find an answer. At some stage, IBM was even saying they'll go and look for experts from their mother company in the US. That's how bad this system is. It's so complex for me because I'm not an IT person. And when you call CEOs of IT companies and they can't bring a solution, it's a big problem for me. And we're waiting to see what will happen. So we are definitely dealing with this matter every day. Chairperson, there are other questions that they've been asked about today about the committee. The questions from Honorable Ruos, why we're still having honeys. Chairperson, we're still having honeys because people are taking their IDs, they are taking their passports, they are taking birth certificates. We can't stop honeys because when you take all those documents, you need honeys. But one of the things on this contract with EOH was for the company EOH to eventually transfer the data on honeys to ABIS when ABIS started operating. And that time has not yet arrived. So while they are busy putting together systems for ABIS, honeys must go on. If we stop it, it will be a complete disaster, Chairperson. The other question I want to answer, because I won't answer all questions. The other question I want to answer was whether the 129 million question from Honorable Modise, whether the 129 million that is left in the kit will be enough. It will depend on the discussions between Treasury and the company who are going to see to what they actually put on the table. We'll then determine whether this money is enough or more and all that. And that will stand for negotiations, Chairperson. The other questions I would like to answer is about the issue of finger pointing. Chairperson, we are not really here to point fingers, but want the committee to carefully outline who was supposed to do that and make sure that that person carry on their responsibility, because we do have different responsibilities here in awarding of tenders, etc. And it's indeed government policy that IT technologies, when you want to procure them, must be procured by CETA. We can't run away from that. It's government policy, and it applies to all government departments, that every time you want to procure systems, you have got to go to CETA. And now some of the questions here, Chairperson, which I'm not answering, is because the answers will be given by the forensic audit. Whether any money was misused, Honorable Lukota, who has misused that money, how much is it, who are we going to charge? That is what the forensic audit is going to show. That's why they ask that you give them a chance, because in their report, they may name people and tell us that so-and-so did so, is a criminal case, so-and-so did so, claim money from them, so-and-so did so, is a civil case. So we can't answer those questions now, because that's precisely what we are waiting for from the investigators. And we are hoping, as we have given them up to January, we are hoping that in February, there won't be any excuse from investigators. If there is any problem, we'll keep on informing you, as I've been doing. You are aware that I've been writing letters to tell you what investigators are doing. I'll continue doing so even before the 1st of February. Whether the report is now being concluded, whether there's another problem, I won't stop. I'll continue doing that, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Honorable Ministers. And thank you for availing yourself to a committee of parliament to answer questions. I think that there's quite a way forward on what we want to do. And with regard to Home Affairs members, the issue of ABIS is it's at the center state, like the minister has said, that everything relates to ABIS. So we are put into a very bad corner, because we may not be able to do oversight properly if we have not concluded the issue of the ABIS from where I'm sitting. And it is unfortunate, one more time, that we find ourselves in this situation. And that is why we thought we need a two-pronged approach in dealing with the problem. But I must say that SETA is the one that is responsible. The one that procured is the one that did everything. And it's unacceptable today that, like Honorable Likota says, that the documents all of a sudden are somewhere with the lawyers. When we were briefed something else. You know, a committee of parliament must not be lied to about anything. Committee of Parliament is a very important committee that must execute its task. So we think that in dealing with this matter, a two-pronged approach would work. That is why I wanted us to start with the request of the minister on how to deal with the issues. But whether there's treasurer or there's SETA minister, the work has to continue because you can't halt the work. We're actually forced to put a subcontractor who has been dealing with the work. Because if you say you are going to follow this process or that process, it means somebody must stop who's there now. This is it's an intervention measure. And if the work stops, what are you going to do? You wait for another process. It's unthinkable. But all what members want is accountability. For every action that we have done, we must be able to account. We've done this because of this. And I think I hear a call from members that SETA must begin to minimize its involvement on the home affairs related issues. But from other departments, we're also getting the same response that SETA is not doing well. And we welcome what Honorable Stella is saying, that they're trying to reposition SETA. But so far, there's no proof or anything to show that it has repositioned. And we want the department to take accountability because Auditor General wants the department to account, and Auditor General put the department into disclaimer, not the SETA. And it's unfortunate if SETA has involved itself the way it has to put ourselves where we are today. Really unfortunate. I think February will come, we'll still interact. I hope we'll not take the same presentation on consequence management. When we're in the future, we must take a presentation around this matter. But I think everything that is happening now. It's pointing towards us having to get quite a solution on how do we move forward. And we appreciate the progress that we are saying, Minister. Don't hold, just try to salvage the project as far as possible. And everything that must be done within the framework of the law. And I think that is what the committee will appreciate going forward. I'm not going to comment too much on the issue relating to Bushiri and other issues because I am a witness on a case that he is involved in. I'm a state witness in a case that is involved in the previous case. So it may be sub judice or unfair of me to really speak on those issues when I'm a witness. And then around the issues of oversight, I think members will be doing oversight this weekend. We hope to clarify the issues that relates to the refugees. And all other issues that have been raised today, the administration will pick them up one by one so that we're able to follow up on them one by one. All issues that members have raised that are issues of concerns will be picked up one by AG, and then we will then make follow-ups so that we don't leave anything to chance and we don't leave any stone unturned. But to this end, I think we have had a fruitful meeting. There is clearer on the way forward on how we're going to incrementally and progressively deal with the challenges that were faced with this EOH-related matter. And I think with those words, I want to thank everyone, particularly the ministers and members, and everyone else who has attended the meeting. I think we can, we'll close the meeting at that point, and any other matter will follow up, and we'll look at the timeframes that we provided today and make proper follow-ups. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Bye,
Chair.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank
Chair.
you, Hello. Bye, my friend.
Bye, Honorable Magluba.
Hi, Siyabonga, Siyabonga.
Bye, Minister.
Goodbye, Honorable Makluva, my friend.
Bye, brothers.
Thank you very much.